Halofalava, my name is Brianna Fruean. I'm from Samoa and I'm here at COP with a delegation from the Pacific Climate Warriors.
In my culture, in Samoa, there's a proverb that goes, "E pala ma'a ai le pala upu." Even stones decay, but words remain.
I take the voices of the Pacific with me. I don't just speak from a place of individuality, but a collective voice. I was really lucky to be nurtured by young Pacific voices that really gave me the confidence to be up there and speak to world leaders.
I don't need to remind you the reality of vulnerable communities. Remember that in your words, you wield the weapons that can save us or sell us out.
Climate change is everywhere. That you walk in Samoa, it's in the change in the sea and the bleaching of the coral and the change of that whole ecosystem, right? Which directly impacts our people because we're coastal communities that depend on the ocean. And then we have cyclones and flash floods and drought. Everything is impacted by the climate crisis in our islands.
Climate action can be vastly different from climate justice. This is our warrior cry to the world. We are not drowning, we are fighting.
You know, there's a duty of care that Australia owes to the Pacific, right? Being our neighbor, but also knowing that what happens to the Pacific will also happen to Australia. When we fight for Pacific Islands, we also fight for Australia when there's low ambition, when there's no plan to cut emissions. That's not just a failure on the Pacific, that's a failure on Australia, failing itself. We need to save the Pacific in order to save the world.
The real question is whether you have the political will to do the right thing, to wield the right words, and to follow it up with long overdue action.
Together we can solve the climate crisis because it's a collective issue that can only be solved by the collective.